early start as we have a couple of segments for you. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop, live with you each and every weekday morning. Getting a bit of an earlier start today. Got an appointment I got to head to, but we'll definitely keep you posted on what's going on. We'll look at the calls from college and university officials across the state asking for more state tax dollars to fund facility upgrades and upkeep. We're talking billions of tax dollars, so we'll touch on that. But up next, we've got to tackle, of course, the latest in gun litigation, with the state filing an appeal to the challenge of the ban on individuals who have concealed carry on public transit. A federal judge saying that ran afoul of the Second Amendment, and the state appealing. Well, I talked with the lead plaintiff attorney, David Siegel, in that case. We'll share some of that with you coming up here as well. So it is Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network, and find this podcast anywhere you get podcasts here with America's Talking Network. All right, so stay tuned. We'll get to the conversation I had with David Siegel about the appeal the state has in the concealed carry ban transit case. So that's up next here with Illinois in Focus Daily.
Is that I think they would have a really tough time right now trying to justify how to enforce a law that a federal judge has told them is unconstitutional.
That's lead plaintiff's attorney, David Siegel, in the case challenging Illinois' prohibition of individuals with concealed carry licenses carrying firearms concealed on public transit. It is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Tune in each and every weekday morning live, but also get the podcast. Search for Illinois in Focus, and you'll be able to find that. But like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network. So Friday, the state did file an appeal in the case challenging the state's prohibition of carrying firearms on concealed firearms on mass transit. And this obviously is a case we talked about yesterday. It was filed in 2022, practically 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago. Makes its way through briefings, and a judge late last month declared in district court, federal district court, not state court, federal district court, that the prohibition of individuals carrying concealed firearms on mass transit was a violation of the Second Amendment. So we heard, of course, what the governor had to say. We'll hear a little bit of that. But I reached out to David Siegel. He's the lead attorney for the plaintiffs in this case. And here's his initial reaction of the appeal moving forward and what this means.
We'll continue this litigation at the next stage and present our arguments to the appellate court. But again, we believe that we're on solid legal ground, and that Judge Johnston, reached the correct conclusion and was very thorough in doing so.
So Siegel obviously ready to go to the appeals court with this. This will be handled by the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, again in federal court, not in state court. Earlier this month, Governor Pritzker was asked about the ruling. We heard a little bit about this yesterday.
Well, unfortunately, many of the conservative judges who've been appointed have misunderstood what it means to uphold public safety. And, we still believe in the Second Amendment. It's part of the Constitution that you have rights as a result of the Second Amendment, but there are limitations to that. I mean, just to give one example, the right to bear arms, it's not the right to a shoulder-fired missile, as one example. There are limitations on the kinds of weapons and the places that we need to. Would we allow people to carry an AR-15 into the White House? No. So it's clear that there are some misguided decisions that get made at the circuit court level, the federal court level, and I'm hoping that it'll be overturned along the way if it has to go all the way to the Supreme Court.
So again, that's Governor Pritzker talking about how he is willing to take this all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. But the district court essentially used the Bruin precedent in their ruling saying that the prohibition of carrying concealed firearms on mass transit is a infringement of the Second Amendment. David Siegel responded to the governor and also to the general idea that these laws, these gun control laws, keeping law-abiding people from carrying into certain places, makes people less safe. He says, actually, it's the other way around.
About 15 years ago, I remember when Mayor Daley of Chicago was commenting on the McDonald decision that allowed Chicago residents to have a handgun in their home for defense. And his response was to one of the papers, well, what's going to happen is, someone's going to get a gun, and the next person's going to get a gun, and everything is going to be settled by everyone having a gun. It's going to be the Wild West in the streets. Everyone's going to be solving everything with a gun, or however he phrased it. And that didn't happen. I mean, Chicago has obviously, gun violence problems, but the gun violence problems aren't the law-abiding people who are now allowed to possess a firearm for self-defense. And what we have here is we have a lot of people who feel unsafe on public transportation. And, there's plenty of crime. And it's not being committed by, those law-abiding people who, go through the process and training, et cetera, to get a concealed carry license. But those people want to be able to protect themselves in case something happens, because, not to sound hyperbolic about it, but, they're sitting ducks if someone decides to victimize them, which unfortunately happens. So I don't see this, and I respectfully disagree with the governor and those who are taking that side of the argument that people being able to defend themselves is going to increase crime or something like that. In fact, I would hope that people who are intent on victimizing others, knowing that they have a soft target on public transportation and the stations and so on and so forth, will stop that thinking and not attempt to commit those crimes in those places, because they know that if they do, the people that they're victimizing might actually be able to defend themselves.
So, again, a conversation I had with David Siegel yesterday, getting his response to the state appealing in this case, expected to be handled by the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. But obviously, some of the fundamental questions here deal with so-called, safe places where people aren't allowed to carry firearms. Illinois is not the only place where this is being challenged. You've got the Second Amendment Foundation filing a lawsuit looking to allow for people to carry inside post offices and postal property, saying that prohibitions, especially in a state like Washington State, it violates the Second Amendment, and they're seeking an injunctive relief in that case. So alongside the Firearms Policy Coalition, the Second Amendment Foundation, two private citizens suing the complaint filed in the Northern District of Texas, actually. So Texas has this going on. In the Northern District, they filed that lawsuit. So they say under the Bruin ruling of June 2022, If the government seeks to restrict firearms in a particular location as a sensitive place, it must prove that its current restriction is sufficiently analogous to well-established and representative historical analog. Again, getting to that text, tradition, and history. So now we have a federal judge in Illinois, at least, separate from post offices, explicitly saying the prohibition of carrying on mass transit is unconstitutional and violates the Second Amendment. Now, the case only dealt with several individuals named as plaintiffs, but Siegel, representing one of those lead plaintiffs, he says it's going to be hard for the state to enforce this because a judge, as it is on the record right now, has said that it's a violation of the Second Amendment. Here's Siegel in the conversation I had with him yesterday.
While this litigation is ongoing, I would caution people to follow the law, because I would hate for someone to get in trouble in the interim. However, the state has an unconstitutional law on its books. The judge has declared that. So, leaving aside the issue of that the matter's on appeal, I don't think the state has very solid ground in trying to enforce that law, whether against the plaintiffs or against anybody, because they know that it's unconstitutional. And when the authorities have knowledge that a law is unconstitutional and they go enforce it against people anyway, even if it's not the named person from whatever lawsuit it involves. People's civil rights. That's a violation of people's civil rights in Section 1983 of the Civil Rights Act. That's when people bring civil rights lawsuits that people, that the authorities violated their rights, that's what they're doing. They're bringing a claim under what's called Section 1983. And when the government knows that the law is illegal and they go enforce it against someone anyway, they're potentially opening themselves up to liability. So they might disagree. Fine. But the fact is that I think they would have a really tough time right now trying to justify how to enforce a law that a federal judge has told them is unconstitutional.
So I guess the word from Siegel is to proceed with caution, even though the state's law that was passed back when concealed carry was enacted. I remember putting together a documentary back in 2011, 2012 of Illinois getting the right to keep and bear arms. Hard to believe that that's 12 years ago, but if you look that up, you can find it, Gun Free Zone, the movie. So check that out. All right, we'll track this story as well for you here with Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell each and every weekday morning with America's Talking Network. Colleges and universities across the state looking for more state tax dollars to pay for facility upkeep and deferred maintenance. We're talking hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. Good morning. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell with America's Talking Network. Yesterday, the Illinois House Appropriations Higher Education Committee held a hearing where they had 13 panels of different university and college officials and state agencies talking about deferred maintenance and facility upkeep. And State Representative LaShawn Ford opened up the meeting as the chairman and laid out why this is an important issue. We know that during the budget making time, we have
the responsibility for crafting an essential budget for operations. But equally important are the facilities that you have expressed concern about over the years. As the committee chairman of the Higher Education Appropriations Committee, I'm calling this committee hearing to highlight and focus on the exceptional quality of our public colleges and universities in Illinois.
So while he wanted to highlight the exceptional quality, a lot of the talk was more about appropriating more money for colleges and universities across the state so that they can deal with deferred maintenance. In particular, Northern Illinois University's officials talked about how much deferred maintenance they have.
NIU is facing over $500 million in deferred maintenance in our buildings, which are outlined and prioritized in our annual report to the Illinois Board of Higher Education, ranging from emergency repairs to modernization updates. Aging facilities require significant repairs and upgrades to ensure the safety and functionality for students, faculty, and staff. Keeping a safe and vibrant learning environment is critical for recruiting and retaining talented students, as well as attracting and keeping excellent faculty and staff. To meet the challenges of our aging infrastructure, NIU is committed to long-term planning through its campus master planning framework and multi-year budgeting strategy. This approach enables us to prioritize resource allocation to projects that promote student success and degree completion and align infrastructure investments with academic goals, enrollment projections, and research initiatives. However, despite our best planning, we continue to fall behind keeping up with our infrastructure needs.
So obviously, when you talk about $500 million in deferred maintenance, it's a lot of money. What about fees? Fees for students. That seems to be increasing in some places, as it is with Illinois State University, as officials shared yesterday.
Family Hall Science Building, as I've already mentioned, will be $19 million. To maintain these facilities and prevent health and safety issues and regulatory compliance, we have unfortunately had to impose a fee for students to pay to help us keep these most critical projects up to code. The fee is $30 per credit hour. This means a student taking 15 credit hours per semester pays about $450 each semester to literally keep the roof over their heads and a seat beneath them. Why this fee has been helpful, it has raised the cost of attendance at Illinois State, especially for students from underrepresented and low-income categories.
So obviously fees being increased at universities to help pay for some of this deferred maintenance. Governor State University also there, and they said that funding the facilities is paramount.
Will we allow our educational infrastructure to crumble? Or will we seize this moment to build a first-class campus infrastructure? The time for action is now. The cost of delay is too high. Let's not just repair buildings, but let's rebuild a future for the education in Illinois.
So again, yesterday at the House hearing, they had Illinois college and university officials, 13 different panels speaking about deferred maintenance and various costs for things and the need for more money from state taxpayers. But when it comes to handling these projects, there's anytime you get government involved, obviously, there's going to be a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of forms to file and I's to dot and T's to cross. You hope to have that with tax dollars being involved here. But sometimes you can find people arguing that increases the costs when you have too much bureaucracy and too much regulation and a whole host of other things. It can inflate the costs to the taxpayer. So some of the things that were talked about included having universities and colleges say that they hope to handle more of these contracting issues. But right now it goes through the Capital Development Board, and the Capital Development Board Executive Director was there to answer questions from the panel, including Representative Ford.
You heard about the universities wanting to control their own contract. So do you object to universities getting having their own authority to run projects?
So what I'll say to that, and I do have a response, is that CDB operates within the guidelines of the Illinois Procurement Code, which is crucial for insurance compliance, promoting diversity goals, and maintaining fair competition in the bidding process. By following these regulations, we're able to ensure that both small and large contractors have access to the opportunities across the state.
So they really are focused on just maintaining equitable distribution of these deferred maintenance and capital projects. TJ Edwards there, the executive director of the Capital Development Board, noted a significant amount of funding that CDB has been appropriated by the state, your tax dollars, with approximately 664 projects totaling $7 billion across the state. Now, of those, she said that 170 projects are specifically designed for colleges and universities, representing a taxpayer cost of $3 billion. So more from some of the conversation yesterday didn't all focus on capital development and various expenditures for making sure facilities are kept up. But Z. Scott with the Chicago State University was asked by State Representative Dave Vella from Loves Park about declining enrollment in some of these situations.
You know, that's something that's been really kind of vexing me all summer, is thinking about the idea of, are kids just less kids going to school? Are they going into the trades? Are they going into a job? Are they not wanting to go into debt? Or also less kids are being born? Or are they leaving the state of Illinois? There's a lot of these kind of variables that are out there, and I wonder how to get more kids back into colleges, but I'm still not sure in my head what the best answer is, but I appreciate your perspective on it, considering what you do.
But we have evaluated where are people going. They're going home. They're not, I mean, the biggest competitor for Chicago State is nowhere. Students are not attending college. This state has seen a 37% decline in Black student enrollment in our colleges in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. That is a crisis for this state if we are concerned about workforce and diversity in our workforce.
So again, interesting to hear that. And I looked up some of the statistics here from the Illinois Board of Higher Education, and they said full-time freshman enrollment at Chicago State University has dropped 1.3% in the 2023 to 2024 school year. Governor State University dropped 14.2% in that same time. Southern Illinois University Edwardsville saw a 13.5% decline. Western Illinois University saw a 10.5% decline, according to the Illinois Board of Higher Education. But overall enrollment, they say, for undergraduate schools across the state is slightly up at 0.3%, something they say reversed several consecutive years of decreases. But as you know, the conversation goes with state tax dollars, there's always thinking of how to get even more state tax dollars to these publicly funded institutions. For K through 12 schools, if you recall, what was it, 10 years, 12 years ago or so, they did change the funding formula. It was 2017, actually. They changed the funding formula for how K through 12 schools are funded, saying that they're going to increase $350 million each year. A lot of people argue that's a way to lower the property taxes throughout the state, but now that it's been since 2017 and several billions of dollars going through K through 12 schools, have we seen property tax reductions anywhere? Interesting to note that. But some want to take that same type of funding formula and put it towards public universities and colleges. Here's Urbana-Champaign State Representative Carol Ammons.
As long as we have a flat method of distribution, you will have disparity come out as a result. And what we're trying to do with the commission's work, as well as with the bill, is to reshape real opportunity across our 12 public universities. We haven't actually walked ourselves toward reconciliation of the problem, and I hope that we will have a adequate opportunity to utilize the commission's work.
So we may hear a lot about that into the new year with a new General Assembly about trying to take the K through 12 funding model that they passed back in 2017 and lay that over on top of public university funding. Is that a good idea? A bad idea? What does history show other than increased funding? Does it better outcomes? I'm sure we'll be there to track all of it. It's Illinois in Focus Daily. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for America's Talking Network. Get the podcast anywhere you get podcasts, and follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air. All right, that's all I got for you guys today. Tomorrow, already looking forward, we're going to take a look at a recent Illinois Supreme Court case where they made a decision concerning the odor of cannabis and whether or not that is enough of a flag for an unwarranted search. Also, we'll delve into what you're eating, and the Illinois Secretary of State raising concerns about chemicals in foods. So stay tuned. We'll be back at it tomorrow with Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for being here. And also, don't forget, you can check out the live chat each and every weekday morning as well, and join that area and interact with others that are listening live. All right. Have a great day. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning.